of course, joining me now on the Southern Scene is Jeffrey Williamson, our good friend. It's good to see you, Jeffrey. How are you?
Good.
So let's talk about crisis planning, Medicaid crisis planning. First off, for our viewers, when you're talking about crisis planning, what exactly does that mean?
Right. Well, in our last episode, we talked about advanced planning and trust. This is what we're doing if we've done no planning. So grandma has fallen and broken her hip. They transferred her to the hospital. Hospital transfers her to the nursing home. She has no long-term care insurance. People think that Medicare will pay for nursing home care, but it generally doesn't, or only for a very short period. So we've gotten the tragic news from the nursing home. They're going to need $6,000 a month for grandma's care. What are we going to do?
Right.
There are things, the important thing to note is that there are things you can do. Okay?
I mean, what are some of the common mistakes that you see that people make when it comes to Medicaid crisis planning?
The biggest mistake I see is signing the Medicaid application without fully understanding the rules of qualification. I would say don't until you talk to someone who's truly an expert in the rules. And God bless the people in the nursing homes, the intake people, but many of them don't have the training to really understand what you can do and what you can't. And just because they say you're qualified, they're not DHS. So just because the lady in the nursing home or the gentleman in the nursing home that's doing the intake says, oh yes, this counts, you're qualified, that's not the final official say. There's two tests to qualify for Medicaid. There's an income test and an asset test.
Income and asset.
Correct.
Okay.
If you're over income, there's an easy fix. It's called a qualified income trust. Some people call it a Miller trust. I have seen people, though, go into the nursing home and the nursing home will give them a form. Fill this form out. This is the Miller trust, and they try to set it up, but they don't teach them how to administer the funds in that trust properly. Annually, Medicaid audits you, and if you haven't done it correctly, they will throw you off.
So now, what do you mean when you say there's a remedy for that and putting it in a trust? Now, explain that.
Yeah, the Miller Trust is a shell game, but it's a legally sanctioned shell game by Medicaid. So let's say your mom had $3,000 a month in income. That's not nearly enough to pay the $6,500 a month that the nursing home is charging. Let's say she's otherwise under asset, but she's got $3,000 a month coming. Her pension and Social Security combined are more than the $2,200. You can set up this trust. It's pretty simple. Let all of her income run through the trust. You will then pay the nursing home their proper cost share, distribute her personal needs allowance, which is only $50 a month. And by setting it up that way, simply by running it through the trust, Medicaid will pay for the difference in what her income doesn't pay at the nursing home.
When should we start thinking about this as far as Medicaid crisis planning? Because this really is, you never know when something's going to happen.
The most important thing, obviously, is to get an expert to review the application, and then hopefully they're not in that crisis situation. I mean, the important thing, obviously, is to plan in advance, but the worst thing you can do besides signing that application is to think there's nothing that can be done and just let grandma's assets be withered away gradually and do nothing.
Let's just say somebody doesn't even have a power of attorney, and different things like that, or decisions have to be made. What happens then? I mean, what happens in that situation?
Well, then you're in the courts. You have to go to court and get guardianship and conservatorship.
And that takes a lot of time, doesn't it?
Not to mention a lot of money. Thousands and thousands of dollars in legal fees. Furthermore, you've got to give an accounting to the court of what you do with that money. All of your business is now in the public domain. Having the right kind of power of attorney and advance directive for health care, which is, some people call it a living will, both of those documents together, if they're drafted by the right person and executed properly, you can avoid all of that.
What advice would you give them today as the most important steps to take in moving towards making sure they're covered in case there's some type of crisis planning that they may face in the near future?
Well, if their loved one still has capacity and in their right mind, I would review what planning documents you have. If you have none, I would see an expert as soon as possible to get those basic planning documents, the power of attorney and advance directive in place. So that's the first step I would take. And then if they're in the nursing home and you're having to pay this bill, or Medicare's running out. You've gotten a notice Medicare is going to quit in 30 days. What are you going to do? You need to see an elder law expert. Let's use that time that Medicare is still paying to plan to get ready to qualify for Medicaid.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jeffrey. It's been wonderful talking with you again. A great segment with great information. I know a lot of viewers will definitely take to heart so many things that you've been talking about.
Good to be with you.